This is called The Elves and the Shoemaker. There was once a kind poor shoemaker who owned a shop at the edge of the town. The leather he used to make his shoes was very expensive. After purchasing food and firewood, he could only buy leather for one pair of shoes.
Yes, you could.
"This will be the finest pair of shoes I have ever made," said the shoemaker. "I will start working first thing tomorrow morning." As he fell asleep that night, the shoemaker dreamed that the shoes he made were the most wonderful shoes that anyone had ever seen. When the shoemaker sat down to work the next morning, he saw something amazing. The shoes that he had dreamed about were sitting right before his eyes. "Martha, come quick," he called. "What beautiful shoes!" the shoemaker's wife cried. "How did you make them?" "I didn't," said the confused shoemaker. Just then, the shop door opened. A rich passerby needed a new pair of shoes. "I heard that you make the finest shoes in all of the land," said the stranger. The shoemaker showed the man the mysterious shoes. "Those are wonderful," said the rich man. "The shoes fit him perfectly." The stranger was so pleased with the shoes that he bought them immediately and paid the shoemaker 2 times the price. The shoemaker and his wife danced happily around the shop. "We must celebrate. With the money, the shoemaker bought enough leather for 2 more pairs of shoes." After dinner, the shoemaker was very tired. He went to bed, and once again he had a wonderful dream. This time he saw 2 pairs of shoes. No one in the village had ever seen or owned a pair of such fine shoes.
Always yes.
The shoemaker awoke to bright morning sunlight. Once again, the shoes from his dream were sitting on the shoemaker's workbench. When his wife saw the 2 new pairs of shoes, she squealed with joy. The door to the shop opened and 2 customers walked in. They took one look at the new pair of shoes and smiled. "This is exactly what I've been looking for," said the first customer. The second customer was a wealthy woman who fell in love with the shoes. "They're perfect in every way," she said. The customers paid handsomely. There was enough money to purchase leather for 4 more pairs of shoes. That night, the shoemaker dreamed the leather was formed into shoes by tiny hands. When the shoemaker and his wife awoke, they ran to the workbench. There were the shoes, exactly as seen in the dream. "How is this happening?" asked the shoemaker's wife.
Why is a hand?
"I don't know," the shoemaker said. "In my dream, I saw tiny hands making the shoes." 4 customers hurried into the shop. The new shoes were gone in a blink of an eye, and the shoemaker and his wife had more money than they had ever dreamed. "Our money troubles are over," Martha said, the shoemaker happily. The mysterious shoes kept appearing. The shoemaker and his wife were no longer poor. It was Christmas Eve, and they wanted to thank whoever was making the shoes. "Martha, I think it's time we find out who was doing this," said the shoemaker. They hid behind a cabinet that night to wait for the stranger to arrive. At midnight, they were amazed to see 2 tiny elves prancing through the window.
What's else?
The elves were wearing scraps of clothing, and they had old rags on their feet instead of shoes.
Elves.
But they seemed happy as they began sewing the leather with their tiny hands.
Elves.
"That's why I saw tiny hands in my dreams," whispered the shoemaker. "Those are the tiny elves." When the shoes were finished, the elves left the way they came. Later,
Elves.
the shoemaker's wife said,
The elves.
"I don't know. I think it is a shame that those dear little elves don't have any proper shoes or clothing."
I can't see them.
"I'll make them some brand new shoes," replied the shoemaker. "They're going to come back, and I'll make them some clothes." They worked all evening to make new clothes and shoes for the tiny elves. "These clothes will suit our friends nicely," said the shoemaker. The shoemaker and his wife waited behind the cabinet for the elves to arrive. There they are. Just as the clock struck midnight, the 2 elves arrived and saw the clothing. "Hooray!" they cried. They dressed in their new clothes and began to dance. The shoemaker and his wife were delighted to see the tiny elves celebrating. After lots of dancing, the elves suddenly disappeared through the window. The shoemaker and his wife never saw the elves again, but they had made enough money to keep the shop going, and they had a wonderful Christmas. And every now and then, the shoemaker would dream of those tiny elves, making someone else's Christmas dreams come true. That was a good story about elves. The elves and the shoemaker. Did you like that?
Yeah.
All right.